Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me for this session. Today we're going to be talking about why teaching music in the 21st century must change. Now, this may seem like a bold statement, but if we look at other industries and how they've developed over the past 100 years, we see that by comparison, the business of teaching music has changed very little. In our current changing times, we see many piano studios struggling to keep up with these rapid changes. Teachers are having to quickly learn new tools and techniques to get by. What once was enough is now insufficient. There's a saying in business that goes, "You don't know what you don't know." We're going to be exploring some of the many reasons the business of teaching music is changing and is destined to change even more. But before we do that, I'd like for you to join me for a short thought experiment. Donald Rumsfeld had his own version of the "you don't know what you don't know" quote. He said, "There are known knowns, things we know that we know. There are known unknowns, things that we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns, things we do not know we don't know." Now, at first glance, this may seem like an odd tongue twister, but it's actually a subject that even Albert Einstein devoted time to reflect on. Einstein was presented with this concept of unknowns, and he decided to use geometry as a method of visualizing it. If you imagine a sphere as your sphere of knowledge, and then could somehow measure the circumference of that sphere, you could use the measurement to represent your knowledge. So right now we're talking about the known knowns, things that we are absolutely sure of. This would include things like knowing how to play a scale or knowing where to find notes on the piano keyboard. Now, we could also create a circle that stretches beyond what we know to the known unknowns. These are things that we may be aware of but don't have any detailed or specialized knowledge of. I know about fighter jets, but I don't know how to fly one. I know about Antarctica, but I've never been there and experienced what it's like. If we measure the circumference of the known unknown sphere, we would find that it's much larger than our sphere of known knowns. Beyond all of this, we have an undefined outer region called the unknown unknowns. Like the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. These are ideas and possibilities you haven't even thought about because you aren't aware that they exist or even could exist. But the thing that really gets interesting is when we expand our knowledge through learning and proactively investigating and discovering new things. We add to our sphere of knowledge. As we add to our sphere of knowledge, we find that the sphere of things that we don't know increases even farther. As Einstein put it, the more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. Now, we all know lots of things about lots of things. So, let's think about our sphere of knowledge as it pertains to the business of teaching music. I include the word business here because for almost all music teachers, teaching music requires many, if not most, of the important business skills it takes to make it in business. This includes a long list of skills and operations such as running business finance, scheduling, and many others. Out of all of these business operations, there is one that is often overlooked and undervalued: R&D, research and development. Now you may be thinking, come on, am I supposed to put on a lab coat, open a research facility, and run experiments on my own students? Well, sort of. It's easy for teachers to relay information that they learned from their music teachers in a nearly identical way to how they learned it. The logic goes, it worked for me, so off we go teaching our students in the same way. But there is a big problem with that. You are not normal. Now, I mean that in a good way. Learning to read music and play an instrument using traditional methods requires an extraordinary amount of patience and consistency. The bottom line is, you succeeded in learning to play the piano or other instrument, whereas most others failed. Even more than half who attempt under the guidance of a teacher fail. So for most people, that's not great news. So let's dive in to some of the key reasons students fail and what we as teachers can do about it, keeping in mind that we can use our sphere of knowledge to benefit all of our students if we are willing. So first, let's look at one of the largest differences between you and your students, and that is their brains. Your students' brains aren't just a little different, they're most likely very different. Mashable, a popular tech magazine, wrote in an article in 2014, "Technology has altered human physiology. It makes us think differently, feel differently, even dream differently. It affects our memory, attention spans, and sleep cycles. This is attributed to a scientific phenomenon known as neuroplasticity, or the brain's ability to alter its behavior based on new experiences." Here's another way to think about this. You'll often hear people in their 30s and 40s talk about how difficult it is to explain to their parents how to do seemingly simple things on their computers, like send an email or print a paper. Things that are so natural to the younger generations that it leaves them wondering why older people don't understand it. Is it that younger generations are that much smarter? Or is it that younger people grew up with the internet and email and social media, and their brains literally don't know a world without these things? Now, this isn't to say that older people can't learn these things, and indeed many have. But it tends to be much more of a struggle than it is for children. Aside from all this, you may be wondering, why does this matter? Before we can help students learn and understand music, we need to understand them. Acknowledgement of this fact is the first step we need to take as teachers. Whether we grew up in the 50s or the 90s, most of your students today are growing up in a very different world than you did. So, what changes have occurred over the last 25 years that have ushered in these massive changes to our world? Well, that brings us to our next topic, tools. But not so much these kind of tools. I'm talking about all the tools technology provides. Most of these tools are very new. Things that we've never really felt like we needed as teachers because our sphere of knowledge told us we didn't need them that much. Or at least that's what we thought. Technology has been largely left out of music education up until more recent years. We've been teaching music without technology for hundreds of years before that, so it's easy to feel complacent with keeping things more traditional. If we were to go back 50 years, the technology we have today would fall into the unknown unknowns category because the technology hadn't been invented yet. Most music teachers today have at least an existential knowledge of technology-based tools for teaching, but still today we only see a small number of teaching pioneers, those who challenge their own methods and reach for something more. These are the difference makers, the ones who pave the way for the future, which will change the way we teach and learn, a change that must happen. Change is the only constant in life. It's the resistance to this kind of change that inspired one of my colleagues, who was a teacher for many years, to say, "Education is the dumbest industry you can ever work in." Now, this statement may seem harsh, and it certainly does not refer to the noble intentions of teachers all over the world. But there is something about the way that we learn things that keeps us from wanting to change and improve, and that is effort. We've all invested a lot of time and effort into the things that we have learned and the methods we use to teach those things. To suddenly change how we teach makes us feel that we have wasted our efforts, and we have to invest even more time and effort to learn new methods. This fear is a huge factor that compels teachers to turn a blind eye to new tools, technology, and methods. If we want to become the best teachers we can be, the teachers our students need us to be, we have to be willing to explore new ideas without fear. The third challenge our students struggle with is something that has intensified greatly year after year, and that is distraction. Your students are increasingly distracted by much of the same technology that we've discussed earlier. On top of that, there's soccer practice, t-ball, volleyball, football, track, school activities, increased rates of attention disorders. The list goes on and on. These kids have monumental challenges to deal with when it comes to their attention. And sometimes it's the students who are the most distracted that have the most undiscovered potential. So this may leave you thinking, technology, friend or foe? Well, that depends on if and how you use it. There are countless studies that show that technology is very attention-consuming. Just go to any coffee shop and look at how many people are staring at their phones. It's easy for educators to feel upset or even threatened by technology as it robs us of our students' attention. But what if, instead, we harness technology's ability to act as an attention sponge and leverage it to help students learn music faster? Perhaps then we could take the best parts of what we know and use technology to not only expand what we know, but to be more effective and efficient in teaching our students. Years ago, I became heavily involved with the Piano Marvel project. If you're not familiar, you can check it out at pianomarvel.com. As we began developing, we reflected a lot on these questions and how teachers were prioritizing what they do in their lessons. Though the level of priority tends to shift around upcoming recitals and holidays, in general, we found in our unofficial study that the teaching priority was largely set around what looks good on paper. Now, from the teacher's perspective, this often seems like a pretty good solution, except there's one glaring issue. It's almost completely upside down. What we found is that traditional piano teaching often prioritizes things in a way that most students don't resonate with. And when we objectively look at the high priority set on things that look good on paper, we have to admit that the priorities are, on some level, at least a little bit selfish. Now, there aren't very many times when we can look at the actions of teachers and even think about associating them with selfish, but perhaps we need to consider the possibility that what we as teachers want for the students isn't always what they want for themselves. Or perhaps the path we have in mind for our students to reach their goals and dreams is a path that looks better on paper than it does in reality. When I was a teenager, I had a teacher that made sure I played everything in my method book perfectly. I worked hard, but I came across an exercise in that book that I just could not get my head around. My teacher pressured me week after week to work on this exercise and nothing else until I could get it right. After 5 weeks, I was still stuck and ready to give up on music altogether. On the 5th lesson, I again saw the frustration on my teacher's face. He finally gave in and said disapprovingly, "Let's just move on." We got back to learning, and a couple of weeks later I found that I could play the impassable exercise with ease. I still don't know why that exercise was so hard at that time, but I do know that had I not been abnormally patient, I would have quit, probably for good. My teacher was putting his priorities over my own. He wanted what looked good on paper more than he wanted me to experience what music is all about. It's about discovering. It's about feeling and emotion. At the end of the day, it's all about fun. So what does this look like if we shift priorities in the complete opposite order? Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, music theory is important. We can't throw it to the bottom of some list like it's insignificant. Well, if you thought that, you would be absolutely right. You see, we have to understand that the order of importance from an academic standpoint probably looks something more like the chart before. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We are talking about the order of importance as it pertains to student learning and student engagement. When we are teaching to the test, we are focused on the things that look good on paper. When we are teaching students the joy of music, we are focused on their needs. There's a saying that goes, "Focus on the fun, the rest will come." So when we're talking about music theory or sight reading, we aren't putting them down on the priority list because they aren't important concepts that can augment your students' musical understanding. It's because fun and engagement will increase your students' desire to learn challenging concepts and increase their rate of learning. As we were developing the core values that Piano Marvel would contain, one major area of concern resurfaced over and over again: the practice session. Think for a moment about the practice session. The practice session is when we expect students to learn the most. It's also when the student is the most isolated, with little guidance, no feedback, and little to help motivate them. Technology presented opportunities to help in the practice session in ways that weren't possible before. If the student could only have a way of quickly identifying mistakes as they practice and know how to make those corrections, imagine the time they could save. Imagine almost never practicing mistakes, being more engaged, and having more fun as you practice. Then teachers wouldn't have to spend valuable lesson time going over the same note and rhythm patterns again and again. Instead, a smart practice guide listens and provides instant assessment to help the student work out note and rhythm issues at home. This not only allows us as teachers an opportunity to expand our knowledge, but to leverage all of the benefits of technology that otherwise work against us. Teachers can now focus on teaching musicality and expression and dynamics. The fun art of playing music can more easily become the focus of your lesson, instead of an afterthought. Since the early days over a decade ago, we have developed Piano Marvel to do much more. The tools found in Piano Marvel stretch far beyond what we can cover in this video. The good news is, you don't have to learn everything about using Piano Marvel or any other technology all at once. You just have to take it one step at a time, adding tools to your sphere of knowledge that will enhance your music teaching business and engage your students even more. To give you a better idea of how Piano Marvel works and how it can help you with the things shown in this video and much more, I invite you to watch this short quick tour video. And thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, today we're going to give you a quick tour of Piano Marvel and how you can use it to learn piano faster. Let's get started. Piano Marvel is more than just sheet music. Piano Marvel was designed by piano teachers and is used by schools, universities, and piano enthusiasts around the world. With over 10,000 songs and exercises combined with powerful learning tools, Piano Marvel is the ultimate piano learning system. You can also use Piano Marvel on PC, Mac, or iPad. Let's take a look at how you learn faster with Piano Marvel. Piano Marvel has hundreds of features, but right now I'm going to show you 3 amazing features that are going to change your life. These are Prepare Mode, Assess Mode, and Practice Mode. Let's start with Prepare Mode. Prepare Mode will help you learn notes and note patterns in the most efficient and effective way. Watch how the Prepare Mode follows me as I learn the notes of this song. When I make mistakes, the red marks appear to help me make corrections. After you've played through the exercise, you'll get a notification showing important feedback about your performance. This information will guide you through any song that you're learning. Once you're getting an estimated score of around 100%, you'll know it's time to use the Assess Mode. Assess Mode gives you scores and feedback on every song that you play. Using this feedback, you can quickly correct mistakes before they turn into bad habits. Green notes show me what I played correctly, and red marks show me my mistakes. Scores are also saved to track your progress as you complete exercises and sections of the Practice Mode. The Practice Mode unleashes one of the best kept piano practice secrets of all time. This is the same technique used by piano teachers across the world. Practice Mode breaks down challenging music into smaller sections that are easier to learn. With the practice mode, you can practice like the pros and learn harder music in less time. Some teachers report that their students learn up to 8 to 10 times faster using Piano Marvel. Now that you have a pretty good grasp on how to use Piano Marvel, I'm going to show you how to navigate it. The dashboard is where you go after logging into Piano Marvel. From here, you can navigate to the 4 main music sections of the app. Those are Method, Technique, Library, and Sight Reading. I'm going to quickly walk you through what each of these sections mean and why you would want to use them. The Method and Technique sections are where you want to go to build and strengthen your basic skills of piano playing. The Library is where you go to learn performance pieces or find even more songs and exercises to practice. There's literally thousands of songs in the library ranging from classical music to pop favorites, and we even offer the ability to upload your own music. The last section I'd like to talk about is the sight reading section known as the Sasser. The Sasser is the only sight reading assessment of its kind and it is an amazing sight reading practice tool. As you can see, there's lots for you to explore in Piano Marvel. Whether you're a beginning or advanced player, we're confident that we'll be able to help you along the journey of becoming a better pianist.